Hey, how y'all doing out there in YouTube land? This Stiletto coming at you from the Wild Wild West. Well, yesterday had the big excursion. Down on the Sacramento River, down the Sacramento Delta. Yeah, I did. Finally got out to do some little bit of a bushcrafting. We got to do some batoning. The next excursion that I take, we'll be doing some other stuff besides batoning, and I was thinking about getting into more like the feather sticking and doing some things like that. Feather sticking and maybe starting a campfire or something like that. Hi, Juju. Yes, Juju has to make her appearance. That's my Juno. That's my sweetie. Okay. I'll see you. Yes, I know you're here. Okay. She has to come up and say hi to everybody. Okay, sweetie. Come on down. That's my girl. So anyway, let's discuss what happened and how I feel about the blades that we used yesterday. These are all my blades I bought for the outdoors, and I didn't resharpen them. I just washed them, got off all the tree sap or the wood sap or whatever, and cleaned them up. They haven't been resharpened or anything because I want to test and see which ones held their edge pretty well. We weren't able to do that yesterday. I didn't have any paper on me. And so that's what we'll do today. And we'll discuss which blades I think are best for batoning. That's all I can speak on right now is batoning. I'm not even going to get into feather sticking, even though I did feather stick with a couple of them. This one didn't do any batoning, but it did do filleting and making cut bait, and it's the one that still stinks. It smells like sardines. I tried to wash it off, but it still smells like sardines. It's hard to get rid of that sardine smell. All right, people. Well, let's see what we got here. Let's check out the edge retention first. Got some paper here. Let's first start off with the BK because the BK was the first one to do anything. It took on all the big pieces. Wow. It did not lose any of its edge. Wow. All the pounding I did on this, I think that's pretty impressive myself. I was expecting to have some flaws, but it looks like it doesn't have any flaws. Looks like it's ready to go again. All right, let's check out the Essie next. Wow. Ah, wait a minute. Got a little something there. Is it just let me see if it got dirty. Because it didn't catch the first time around. Might get a little piece of paper on it. Oh yeah, that's sharp. Got a little bit, maybe just a little bit. Let me get another piece of paper. I want to do a slow cut test. That's when you can really tell if it's got anything on the blade. I don't see anything. Let me see, here we go. We're gonna go from heel to toe. Okay, it's sharp. Yeah, I would call that sharp. It's still sharp. Put that one over there. Let's do this one next. The Warcraft. The Warcraft did excellent yesterday. I was really surprised on how well this knife did. And as y'all know, I didn't wear any gloves yesterday. I got a Band-Aid on my finger here because I had to dig out a splinter. But the Warcraft did excellent. It did excellent. I was really surprised at how well it did. It did an excellent job. And it makes me want to highly recommend it for, like batoning at least. Let me see what the 3V held up like. Oh, that's razor. That's sharper than the SE. Slow cut. Excellent. It held its edge. It held its edge very well. Okay, the AK did very well too. Both of the Warcraft and the AK did really well. The only thing I have with the AK is that it wasn't as comfortable in my hand. Because remember, I was using bare hands, so I know what the handles felt like. It wasn't as comfortable in my hand as the Warcraft. This one really just like, it really feels really good in the hand. The only thing that I would do to it is like the handle is shaped and everything perfectly. I just feel like it can use a little bit more girth to the handle. But if you want to carry this one as like a scout carry or something like that, this is perfect. Same thing for this one. This would be a good scout carry too. Even though it's thicker than the Warcraft, because the blade tang is thicker. The Warcraft's blade tang narrows down to, it slims down at the end, whereas the AK's doesn't. Okay, let's see what the AK could do. From heel to toe, slow cut. It didn't lose its edge either. Now I was sort of feeling like the 3V was feeling sharper than the 1095 HC. Yeah, that held its edge. And this one didn't really get a whole lot of punch, but it just filleted fish. So we'll check this one too, though. This edge shouldn't have any damage to it. I'm talking about my EK50. Got a little hiccup right there. And I see a little speck of, it might be fish flesh. Looks like I got it off. Okay, let's try it now. Yeah, it's still sharp. Yep, still sharp. So they all held up very well. And as you all saw, I pounded the crap out of these four. And they held up very well. This one really did what I expected to do. It was good for taking down the big pieces of wood. And with its saber ground, it pushed the wood apart. It did an excellent job because it didn't take on the smaller pieces like the other three did. This one took on the big pieces so the other three, be able to handle the wood. So I really think this one, the BK9, it helped. Its reputation still stands. It's a great woods knife. Great wood crafting knife. But I do have one thing about the BK9. It is heavy. And I was trying to carry it on my waist for the whole video, and it just felt like it kept wanting to pull down my pants. So I had to take it off. But you can take a good look at it. You can see a little bit of damage that's on it. It had a bunch of tree sap on it. It was hard to get all that tree sap off of it. But I cleaned it up best as I could with dish soap. Did an excellent job though. Oh, and I retightened up the handle. This time I put some Loctite on it. Not red Loctite, I just used blue Loctite because I want to be able to take it apart if I need to. Because I noticed when I did take it apart, I took it apart after I washed it, add all sorts of water underneath the handle. And so I took it apart, dried it up really good, and then I put grease on the handle. On the metal parts of the handle before I put it back together. And then when I put it back together, I used blue Loctite, and I tightened it up fairly tight. I didn't like torque it down. I never torque down knife parts. But I tightened it up really, like a real strong finger tight, like I do on my, well, I don't even really do my folders like that. I do it like a light finger tightness, so I could take it apart really easily again. But I didn't want this to come loose again, so I Loctited it and and tighten it up really good, because this was just the first trip. We're going to take these knives on several trips. And by the end of several trips, I'll be really able to tell you what types of knives and what knives I like the best. So far, I love the BK9 for handling big things. I didn't really use it on the small stuff. I just used it on the big stuff. And the only thing I can think of that would be better than this one would be an axe or a hatchet. And honestly, for batoning, if you're in a survival situation, because every show, like Bear Grylls, am I saying his name right? But I used to like to watch his survival shows all the time, and he always stressed about how important it is to save energy. And you don't want to use a whole lot of energy. And honestly, after batoning yesterday, I was tired. I fished for a couple more hours after that, maybe about an hour and a half or so. And until like all the people came out on Saturday and had their jet skis and ski boats and riding in inner tubes up and down the river, and sort of like disturbing my fishing. So I decided to stop at that point. And it was getting hot anyway. And I wasn't in the water like they were. But I don't know if you're going to hear the boats in the beginning, the boats and motorcycles and things cruising up and down the river levee. Because where I was fishing is like this one area where it's like a boat launch on the Sacramento River. And so that's the reason why there's all those jet skis and everything over there, is because I was near a boat launch. But it's easy for me to access, because I have a disability, so I need to go to places I can access easily. I used to have a four-wheel drive Toyota 4Runner, one of the old ones in 1986. And I used to drive that thing down the levees and up the levees, because the four-wheel drive on that thing was like, it never left me stranded anywhere. I love that little Toyota, but I had it until I almost had 300,000 miles on it, and things just stopped working on it all the time, and it started becoming undependable. Even though the engine kept on running, a lot of other things would start to fall apart on it. So I decided to get rid of it, but I sort of wish I still had it, because it was perfect. I used to call it my fishing truck. And I had it all set up to carry my poles, because I like 7-foot one-piece poles for fishing. Those are my favorite fishing poles. 7-foot poles, and for salmon I like 8'6" poles, and I also like the 7.6 one-piece poles too, if they're like a medium light action. But that's the way I like to fish with fairly light tackle. I'm not really like a heavy tackle person, because I like to be able to feel all the bites. Because like when you're fishing in the river and in the delta, there's lots of baby stripers, and the baby stripers are the ones that really hit your line first. And it's like, you don't want them to swallow the hook. So I always hook them and then release them before they swallow the hook, because I'm going to kill the fish. But that's just the way I roll. That's just the way I roll. My fish, I actually hold my pole. I don't let it sit in a pole holder. I actually hold it so I can take every bite. And yesterday I caught a 16-inch striper. The stripers that you're allowed to keep where I live have to be 18 inches long. I usually don't keep fish anyway unless I need the food. That's the way I was sort of raised. You don't kill things unless you're going to eat them. And so I don't kill things to like store, put them in a milk carton and freeze them and store them for later use. I don't do all that. If I catch a fish or whatever, it's because I'm going to eat it that day. And I didn't need it. I had lots of food, so I didn't need to eat a fish. So I do like to catch them. I call it playing with the fish or feeding the fish, because you're feeding them sardines basically off of your bait. But to me, fishing is more of a when I get out and fish, it's more of like a way to get away. I don't do drugs, and I don't drink sometimes I have a beer or something like that, but I don't drink a lot of alcohol or do anything like that. I don't hang out in bars and do stuff like that. But what I do like to do is get out in the outdoors. And that's my way to escape reality for a little bit. You just get out in the outdoors and do some fishing and just enjoy yourself. Concentrate on catching fish, and concentrate on, enjoy looking at the river or the delta or the sloughs or wherever you're at. Sometimes I like to go shore fishing in the ocean too, like down at Baker's Beach and something like that, and fish. One time I caught the big flatfish, a stingray. I caught a stingray one time down at Baker's Beach. That's the beach that's underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. And that was fun. Everybody, ran up and they helped me, release it back into the water and stuff like that. That was pretty awesome. That was like the biggest thing I've ever caught before was a what do you call it, a manta ray or a, what you doing, sweetie? What you doing? That's my girl. That's my girl. But that was like the biggest thing I've ever caught before. And after that would be like a salmon. I think the biggest fish after that is a salmon for me, and then I've caught big stripers too, but never as big as like that one salmon I caught. I caught salmon, I can't remember how big it was. It was like almost 30 pounds or something like that. It was pretty big. Yes, my sweetie. But I love to fish. I love to fish. Love to fish. I like to fish down in the delta as opposed, like we have lakes where I live, but the lake fish, like the small trout or I call them small, but like a trout and like the catfish and stuff like that you catch in the lakes aren't that exciting to catch to me. I like being down in the delta because in the delta you never know what you're gonna catch. It could be a sturgeon that weighs 1,500 pounds, or it could be a striper that weighs 20, 30, 40 pounds, or a salmon that weighs 50 something pounds. You never know what you're gonna catch. And when you're using, when I use light tackle, the tackle I like to use is like, I always take one pole with 12-pound tests, another pole with 15-pound tests, and sometimes a third pole with even heavier tests, because sometimes you have to fish around a lot of things that can mess up your line and stuff like that. So you want a heavy, that's the only reason why I use a heavier line, is to combat, the bushes and trees that are in the water, whatever obstacles you have to deal with in the water. So lots of times I'd like to carry, I'd like to have a pole that's spooled up with like 20-pound tests. Yesterday I just had 12 and 15-pound tests on my 7-foot rods. But that's the way I like to roll for fishing. But these knives, I'm really impressed with these. This one didn't even look like it took any damage. It still looks like new. The Warcraft. I think it's because it doesn't have any coating on it. This one, it still looks pretty much like new too. It's got like, I can see like a little bit of like something right here, right there in the stonewash, like a scratch or something. But you know what? Stonewash hides everything. Still looks excellent. So, I never thought these cold steel knives, because I never I sort of thought they would be good for wood crafting, but I know that these are supposed to be like combat knives. The AK-47 and the Warcraft, it's supposed to be like soldiers' knives or whatever. But they held up very well. Very well. And the BK's got lots of little scratches in the finish. And like where I pounded on it, you can see some parts where the finish came off. But you know what? I'm going to leave the finish on it though. I know a lot of people take the finish off of it. I still want to leave the finish on it so y'all can see the wear that I put through it. It did very well. I'm very pleased with what my BK did. Even though the handle came loose, I start to not want to use it anymore because I didn't want to damage it. By keep on using it with the loose handle. But the handle and everything looks perfectly fine. When we get out there again, I'll see if the handle comes loose. But I'm gonna be honest with y'all. As far as batoning's concerned, I sort of want to get a hatchet and maybe like an axe. I hatchet to me is like a small axe, and I also want like a full-size axe. And I think I'm gonna get the cold steel ones, the cold steel hatchet, because I've heard lots of good things about cold steel axes. The Trail Boss seems to be one that everybody likes, and it's not too expensive. Because I don't want to spend, because a lot of axes, if you look into the axes, a lot of them are like $200 and stuff like that. And I don't want to spend that much for an axe. I'm being honest. For a pocket knife, I might spend that much. Why? Because I'm going to carry the pocket knife all the time. Just like the one I got in my pocket right now that went to work with me. You know what I'm saying? It's like a $400 knife now, maybe a little bit more. But I love carrying this knife. I love it. I like the Demko knives the best. The Demko pocket knives, with the shark lock. I don't really care for the 80-15. Don't let me say that. I do like the 80-15 and the 80-10, but they're not fidgetable. I mean, to me, the 80-15 is sort of fidgetable, sort of, but it takes a lot of practice and know how to do it. Whereas this one doesn't. You can learn how to fidget one of these within a day or a couple hours. I really like the shark lock. To me, the shark lock is the best lock on the market. Okay, why am I talking about that? That's not what the video's about. Getting sidetracked. But I really love these fixed blades. I like them all so far. And I know that the SE6, to me, didn't do the best on the batoning and stuff like that. It did a good job. Don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about the way it felt. You know, the handle on this still, though, it's like awesome. I love this handle. But with the full flat ground blade, I feel like it didn't perform as well as the saber ground blades. These three have saber ground blades. Saber ground, you know, that means it's like you got a flat and then it goes straight down. You know, it's flat ground to the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's a saber ground blade. And to me, these perform the best. And the way that I know that is because I could feel the wood splitting when it got to a certain point and it would just like pop loose. And that's because of the saber ground blade, I think. This one has saber ground blade also. It's kind of hard to see with the finish on it, but it is saber ground. And all of these are about the same thickness. I think they're all 5mm. Let me check again. I know this one's 5mm and this one's 5mm. I think these are 5mm too. Let me just check real quick. Now I'm gonna be giving anybody any bad information, but I think they're all 5mm blades. So as far as like the thickness is concerned, none had any advantage over the other. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can really tell which ones actually work the best. What type of blades work the best. 4.7, let me go all the way down here. 4.72. Not quite 5mm, almost 5mm. This one is about the same. About 4 3/4mm. 4.75. This one's 5mm. It's reading 4.87. Close to 5mm, a little bit thicker than the cold steel knives. The Essie, 4.81. Let me re-zero. I want to re-zero. Hold on. 'Cause I thought this was 5mm last time. 4.97 now. Pushing all the way over. Yep, 4.97. Let me redo this one. 4.97. Exact same size as the SE. 4.92. And re-zero, that one says 4.78. $4.97 it says now. So I guess the zero goes off after I use it a couple times. And this one's thinner. 4.27. Let's re-zero again. Yep, 4.27. All right. So all of these are really, basically the same thickness of blade stock. And so that lets me, really tell which types of grinds, blade grinds actually do the best. And what we were doing yesterday was batoning. And I would say these three are the ones that did the best at batoning. This one did good at batoning too, don't get me wrong, it did good at batoning, but it just didn't feel as like it was batoning as easily as these three. Because it felt like it was more like, just slicing into the wood instead of separating it. I felt like I was just cutting down into the wood. The other ones felt like they got to a certain point and the wood popped loose. And I think that's what happens when you have a serrated, what do you call it, a saber ground blade. It gets to a certain point and it pops loose, like almost like if you're probably using like an axe blade or something like that. So what I learned yesterday is that the knife that I think would be best for batoning, besides these, that would probably even be better than these, might be the SE5, because the SE5 has a 1/4 inch blade, which is a lot thicker than this. It's like more like my Wild Pig Hunter. Wild Pig Hunter is a 1/4 inch blade also. But the SE has a 1/4 inch blade. It's a little bit shorter blade. It's like an inch shorter or something like that. Or a 1/2 inch or an inch shorter or something like that. Shorter than this one. It's probably more like one of these, just a little bit longer. And it has a saber grind. So that looked to me like, looks to me like, like if you're doing like the smaller pieces of wood, like I was doing with these three. Let me put all these three together. Like I was doing with these three, I think the SE5, if that's what you're looking for, a good batoning knife, for doing small pieces of wood. Still, if you're going to go with the big pieces of wood, I would want a longer blade, because the reason why is that you want more to be able to pound on. Whereas these, if the wood's this thick or whatever, you're not going to have that much to pound on. So, but this one, it can handle, bigger pieces of wood because you still have a lot to pound on. Baton on. I shouldn't say pound on, but baton on with your baton. These are good for the smaller pieces of wood because you still have enough blade to do smaller pieces of wood, but they're not long enough. Now this one right here, they don't make them anymore. They don't make these anymore. They have a new type of Warcraft. So you can't get the old ones brand new anymore. You'd have to get it on the secondary market, the 3V old ones, because now they're making them with a Sam May steel for the high-end ones, and a 4034 German corrupt stainless steel for the inexpensive ones. And I wouldn't baton with stainless steel. Everything I've seen on the internet and stuff like that, shows that stainless steel knives tend to be a little bit more brittle, and so when you pound on them, they snap, especially if they got longer blades. I've always been told that it's not good to have a stainless steel blade longer than 12 inches, because when you go longer than 12 inches with a stainless steel blade, they tend to snap easily. Because stainless steel isn't like high carbon steel; it's not as tough. That's the reason why I chose not to go with stainless steel blades for my wood crafting knives. Everything I've always learned about stainless steel is great for pocket knives or great for fixed blades that you're using as like a hunting knife or something that you're not going to be pounding on, or something that you're not going to be putting through a lot of stress and stuff like that. Then the stainless steel knife is good. Stainless steel knife would be good for a combat knife, if you're using it for fighting your enemy with, because stainless steel can handle flesh real well. It's good for cutting meat and all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't pick a stainless steel knife for a wood crafting knife, one that you might have to do some batoning with, or any of those kind of heavy chores with, or a lot of chopping even. I wouldn't pick a stainless steel knife for a chopping knife, one that you're going to be using to chop things with, because I don't know how well it would handle that. And me myself, I'm not trying to get something up so I can see if it breaks or not. I just go by what I see on the internet. I see other people breaking them. So I can learn from that. Because I'm not a rich man, and the tools I get, I buy tools that I think they're going to be able to do the job. I don't buy tools that I don't think are going to be able to do the job. And the reason why I got these is because I got them for wood crafting, because when I bought these, I started feeling like I wanted to get into wood crafting. And I wanted 3V blades. And these are the cold steel knives with 3V blades I thought would be excellent. At that time, I didn't want blades with finishes on them, because I've always seen, people always remove the finish or whatever. And 3V, even though it's not a stainless steel, it is sort of like D2, where it's sort of semi-stainless. It doesn't rust super easily. And when it does rust, it just gets like surface rust, and you can easily take it off and stuff like that. Whereas like a high carbon steel like this one, which is a HC, a high carbon steel, these will rust very easily. Or like my tops. Wild Pig Hunter, that's an HC blade also. And 1095 HC is a steel that's known for rusting super easily. It doesn't take a whole lot for them to rust. And they rust bad too. They get like pits in them and stuff like that. And so like if you're gonna have your blade not be finished like my tops is right now, you really have to pay attention to it, keep it oiled or whatever. Don't let it, ever get damp or be in a damp place or something like that, because it will rot on you. That's what I know about high carbon steel blades, like the K-bar my father gave me. That one used to rust really easily, because all the finish was pretty much worn off of it. And so, you always had to keep it oiled and stay on top of it, otherwise it'd start rusting on you. And I have an old Bowie knife that I used to abuse and stuff like that my pops gave me, that was from Mexico, that's handmade. And that one's full of rust pits and stuff like that. Even though I kept it clean, it was like it's hard to keep it from rusting. Whereas on the other hand, when you get like a 1095 CV or chromium vanadium steel, the extra chromium is what makes a steel stainless, or semi-stainless or stainless, is how much chromium it. That's what I've always heard. Now, I've heard other people say no, it's the nickel or whatever, but I've always heard that chromium is like what helps it helps the steel be stainless, and it helps you also retain a better edge. As we all saw, this one did the hardest work, and it's still razor blade sharp. I think it's sharper than the SC, to tell you the truth, the high carbon steel. But one thing that's good about these kind of steels, like the 1095, from what I've always learned on YouTube, I'm not a pro at this, I'm just letting y'all know, but the things I've seen on YouTube is that, high carbon steels are always, like the 1095 or like even like 1070 or 1075 or whatever, they're all easy to resharpen. But 1095 is the one that holds the edge the best. But it's also more brittle than like a lower carbon steel, like a 1080 or 1075 or 1070. It's more brittle than those steels. Those steels should be tougher than a 1095 steel. So whenever you get a 1095, I would always get one that's fairly thick. Like this was 5 millimeters. I call 5 millimeters at the beginning of being thick. 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters is when steel starts to get thick. But 5 millimeters is a nice durable. As we found out yesterday, this one I was pounding on this thing as hard as I could, and it just took it. It just took it. So that proved to me that this is a good steel. This is a good steel. It's good enough for me anyway, because it can handle what my pounding. So, I'm not Hercules or anything, but I would consider myself like an average man or whatever, as far as strength is concerned. And I was pounding the crap out of it, and it handled it. I'm very impressed with this knife. The only thing that happened negative on this knife was that the handle came loose. But that's probably my fault, because when I put it together, I don't think I cinched it down super tight, and I didn't use any sort of Loctite or anything on it. Now it has Loctite on it, and I'm gonna let it sit for a few days and let it dry up. But by the next time we go out on our next excursion, it will be ready. It will be ready. This is a very good knife, and I love the way this handle feels. To me, this is the most comfortable handle out of all these knives. I love this Becker handle. Especially with the micarta, but I imagine that the plastic handle would feel good too, because it's the exact same shape. But I just like the way micarta feels. Micarta feels like it's inviting your hand onto it. It's like, I like micarta better than wood, better than G10. It's more comfortable than all of them. I think it's probably my favorite handle material as far as the way it feels. But I know if you want a handle material that's really strong,
go with G10. G10 is like, it's got extremely high tensile strength. And Andrew Demko says G10 is his favorite handle material because it's got the tensile strength of steel. The micarta just feels good. And it looks like wood. You know, it's got a classic look to it. That's why I picked the natural G10, because it looks like wood. Because I like the way wood looks. But wood's got its issues though, because it splits and it can get weathered, it can warp, it can do all sorts of weird things. I know they got wooden handles now that are treated or whatever that aren't supposed to split and do all those kind of things. But I've owned wooden handle knives and just in storage, after 10, 15 years, you go to pull it back out and there'll be like a crack in the handle, even though you never used it. So wood is not my favorite handle material. Now this feels awesome, and I like handles that I can undo. Like I take it apart and I can totally clean it. Let's say if this got submerged in water or whatever, I would want to take it apart and make sure it doesn't have water on the inside of the handle. And if it did, I want to be able to dry it out and stuff like that. Like this handle was loose when I washed it today, and it got water all inside the handle. So if I wasn't able to take it apart, I don't know if that, even though it's all finished and everything, it might still cause some sort of rotting or something. But I absolutely love the BK. The BK is an awesome knife. It's an awesome knife. The Essie is another knife that has a super comfortable handle, and it's fun to use, and it feels good in hand. And I can't wait to get out there again, because next time we go out, I'm going to concentrate on feather sticking. And I want to get some things like branches or something to feather stick like I see other people using as opposed to firewood. Because I don't know what kind of wood that was I was using, but it was super tough. And it was like full of splinters and stuff, so, I just want to try something different. Get some really natural wood from wherever I'm at. And I'm not a wood pro, so I don't know what trees are what. I know what an oak tree looks like, because we have lots of oaks, golden oaks around where I live, and they're protected by law. You can't cut them or chop them down. And that's one reason why I wanted to bring the firewood with me, because I know some things are protected. California is weird like that. We have a lot of things that, if you damage them or something like that, and you get caught doing it, you get fined big time. Or if you catch animals, like fish or whatever, or if you kill game that's not legal to be killed or caught, you get like $5,000 fine. I mean, they got crazy fines. And so, you got to be careful about all that. But on this one, you can see like it started to wear off some of the labeling. But one thing I like about this knife over the others is I love the size. The size and weight of this knife is awesome. And it felt good on my hip. It didn't feel like it was pulling down my pants. This one is actually a really nice size. And I think this was a 6.5 inch blade to the handle scale, and like 6 inches of cutting edge or whatever. And this knife is an awesome knife. I really, really like the SE. But it sort of makes me want to try out a SE5 too, because I think these are super high quality knives. And they're not too expensive. You can get them for like under $150 or whatever. That's what I mean by not too expensive. Maybe expensive to a lot of people, but I can afford a $150 knife. And especially if it's a $150 knife that may save my life one day in a survival situation. I think I'm gonna put one of these in my bug out bag in the back of my car. I don't know which one yet, but one of these is gonna probably, because I used to always carry a XL Voyager in my bug out bag, whether it be a Tonto or my new Barong style one. The Barong style one's one that's been my bug out bag lately. And right now I put my Tonto in there because I loaned out my Barong style blade to Lucky. So I don't have that one right now. But I think I want to put one of these fixed blades in there. And I don't know which one yet. And I'm thinking probably maybe like the SE. Because Because the SE to me is like a perfect size. It'd probably be good for everything. You know, it'd be like a jack of all trades, but maybe not a master of none. But it'd be a jack of all trades. It could be used for anything. I really like the SE. And I think what I really like about it is the handle, and I like the overall size of it. To me, it's like a perfect size. It'd be a perfect size for self-defense or combat, and it's also a perfect size for, you know, doing woodcrafting, or, you know, if you had to, if this was the only thing that you had, this would be a good survival knife. And I love the finger groove. That's the only thing. That's the reason why I didn't get the SC5, because it didn't have a finger groove. And you know me, I like my American Lawman, and that's what got me used to having finger grooves. And I always love having that. I always like having that option. And it has the jimping right in the right space, right here, the jimping and the finger groove. So it's like, you know, really awesome. It's like an awesome knife. I really like the SE. But I think the best one that, you know, so far, you know, for feather sticking was this one. And this one doesn't really need a finger groove because it feels like that, you know, you're close to the tip of the blade already. So you don't really need a finger groove on this one. But, and I have a, I think it's a 7.5 inch or 7 inch. I'm not sure what it is, 7.5 or 7 inch Warcraft. One of the older Warcrafts, the 3V ones with the DLC coating, the black DLC coating. And I'm not going to use that one because those are collectors now. You know, you can't find them no more. And if the blank hits the fan, I think that'd be one of the knives I might want to take, because I think it'd be just as good as this one, even better because it's a little bit longer. And I think that might be the sweet spot size for this knife. Might be one that's maybe like a 7-inch knife or something, 7-inch blade knife. Because I think if this one was 7 inches long, it'd be able to handle bigger stuff like this one. Because these are really tough knives. I like the 3V steel. I think the 3V steel is probably better than the 1095. For a couple of reasons. It doesn't rust as easily. It holds the edge nicely. And 3V is just super tough. It's a super tough steel. And the way cold steel does it, you know, cold steel it has a reputation for tempering their products right. And this one feels like it's like tempered right because it held its edge. I pounded the crap out of it. This one and this one, and they held up just fine. So I would highly recommend these two knives. I would highly recommend all these knives, to tell you the truth, because none of them even felt like they were gonna, you know, mess up on me or whatever. Awesome knives. Absolutely love them. The only thing happened on this one is that the handle came loose, but that might be my fault, because maybe I didn't put the handle on tight enough, or without Loctite or whatever when I swapped the handle scales. This one, I didn't want to put through all that because this one to me is more like a self-defense knife. It's my scout carry knife, and I didn't want to do that to the EK50. EK50, I let it do easier chores like fillet fish and cut up my bait and stuff like that. But the EK50 to me is just a sweet little knife. And I'm sure, you know, this is 1095 CV also. So I'm sure it can handle, you know, pretty much the same type of stuff that these other knives can handle if I had to put it through that. And it's got a thick enough blade tang, you know, 4.25 millimeter blade tang. So, you know, the blade stock. So it's a strong knife also. But I just felt like these knives were the ones I really meant for that. This one's just supposed to be a backup knife. Absolutely love them though. But I do wish these were a little bit longer. I wish they had like a 6.5 inch or 7 inch blade. I think if these had a little bit longer, if this one had a little bit more comfortable handle, like the shape maybe more like this one or like this one, it'd be a little bit better. But I don't know, it just didn't feel like this groove back here. I think maybe that might be what was bugging me when I was using it, because I could do without this groove maybe. But you know, as a combat knife, you might want those finger grooves because it gives you a little bit better grip. Now, this is a great. This knife did a great job too. The AK-47. And these knives, these three right here would be easy to carry. These are easy carry knives, whereas this one, I don't know if I'd want to carry this all day. I think it'd be more of a backpack knife for me. But on my hip, I don't know if I want to carry this. That made me wonder about the tops knife that I got, because it's big like this one, big and long like this one is, and it might even be heavier because it's a thicker blade stock. It made me think, would I really want to carry that top saw? Because less than an hour, less than 20 minutes or whatever, I got tired of carrying this one. So it made me think, maybe I need to rethink that. Maybe I need to rethink that. Maybe the tops would be too heavy for me to want to carry all the time on my hip. Like I was carrying this one. Because this felt like it was straight up pulling my pants down. As y'all know, as I've told y'all, I suffer from a severe flat butt. So I don't have the hips to hold up my pants. And so, my stomach is bigger than my waistline, so I have that issue. And so I need to, wear a belt that's really tight, or constantly be pulling up my pants, or perhaps even get suspenders, but I don't like suspenders. If I was wearing suspenders, it'd be probably a different story, because then I have something to help hold up my pants or whatever. But I'm not into suspenders. So, but this is an awesome knife though. But what I did learn from batoning, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to baton some wood. So if you're in a survival situation, I think you would probably be better off, if you're gonna have to be splitting wood and chopping on wood and all that kind of stuff, is to have either a hatchet or an axe. And I think I want to try those too. And so you'll probably see me get a couple of cold steel hatchet. Maybe you'll be able to see me get a cold steel hatchet, because I've been looking at this one hatchet so far, and I want to get the trail box axe. And so those might be videos that my survival videos in the future also. But anyway, that's the discussion on these. And if you guys got any comments or things that that you've experienced, with these types of knives or whatever, maybe with these models of knives, mention it in the comments and let me know what y'all think. But so far, absolutely love the BK. The BK is a beast. This is a beast. This is a beast. And have you guys seen the Tops Kuma cage? I don't know if I'm saying that, Kuma cage or Kaji or whatever. And it's like a sword. They call it a sword. And it has, I want to say, a 1/4-inch thick blade stock. And then the blade comes straight, and then it has like a belly at the end of the blade. I've seen, they've shown people chopping down trees with that thing. It works like an axe almost. And it's got a two-handed grip. That thing looks pretty badass. I was tempted to get one of those, but that's a lot more weight though again. And so, what would be better if you're carrying a lot more weight? Because I think it weighs 36 ounces. I think it was like 36 ounces, and it's like 2 feet long. And I thought that would be awesome for zombies. If you're in that kind of situation, but because it would definitely be something to chop off limbs and heads and things like that, body parts, with one swipe probably. But if you're gonna carry something that heavy in a survival situation, would you be better off carrying a big blade, or would you just be better off carrying, let's say, a cold steel trail box, an axe? Something to think about. What do y'all think? Would it be better, the Kuma Kaji, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, people. It's a tops knife, and if you go look it up, you probably just search tops knife sword. I bet you would show up. But take a look at that, and take a look at a couple of videos of it, and tell me, would you rather have that or an axe? Anyway, I'm gonna end it for right now. Go ahead and go enjoy the rest of my evening. Hang out with Juno over here. Oh, she's over there sleeping on the chair again. There's this rocking chair that used to belong to my grandmother, my mother's mother, and I inherited it. And nobody else uses it because it's kind of old and rickety or whatever. And it's a rocking chair. And Juno loves that chair. I call it her throne. Whenever she's not hanging out with me, she's always in Grandma's chair. But anyway, peace out, Stiletto. Y'all have a great day. Oh, one more thing. One thing I forgot to do in the video that I made yesterday is that I forgot to show you the river. And so the next video I make where I'm down in the Delta somewhere, or maybe at a Folsom Lake or Nimbus Lake or whatever, I will show you where I'm at. I will do a panoramic view of the area that I'm in. One thing that's ugly about the river, though, is that everybody in Sacramento goes there, and a lot of people leave trash everywhere. And that's one thing I hate about the river. And so, like the area that I was in, I cleaned it up. Actually, I picked up trash and stuff that was in that area, and so I didn't really want to show everybody the trash. But there's a lot of people that are just, I don't know, they don't know how to clean up after themselves. And so that's kind of depressing sometimes, but you go down there to try to enjoy nature and then you're looking at other people's old trash. But next time I go to someplace, I'll go somewhere that's a little bit more secluded that won't have trash, that a lot of people don't go to or whatever, because it's not a place for jet skis and boat launches and all that kind of stuff. When you get away from the places that everybody goes to, those are the cleaner places. But anyway, peace out, Stiletto. Hope everybody's doing good out there. Peace.